My boyfriend physically blocked me from leaving the bathroom, and I don't think he understands how triggering it was. This morning my partner and I got into an argument and I stormed off. I was really upset, so I went into the bathroom and locked the door so he couldn't follow me. My boyfriend said he needed to use the bathroom, so I begrudgingly unlocked it to let him in, and then he started talking again about the argument and continuing to share his perspective. I obviously felt tricked, as I would not have let him in if I knew he was going to continue the conversation. I then tried to leave as I didn't want to have the conversation in that moment because I was too upset. He blocked the doorway with his body and would not let me leave the bathroom. I immediately started to panic. I was abused in the bathroom by my father on multiple occasions as a child, and being stuck in the bathroom not able to leave is very triggering for me. This happened once before several years ago, where my boyfriend tried to get me to stay in the bathroom by grabbing my arm. He apologized when I explained how triggering it was for me. Anyway, I started to panic and was yelling at him to let me out. He ignored my requests and was asking me to calm down / take deep breaths. I was forcefully trying to move him so I could leave, but he wouldn't budge. In my yelling panic, I told him I was feeling very triggered and wanted to leave, but he still wouldn't let me. He said he was going to record my behavior so I could watch it back. I told him if he didn't let me leave the bathroom I was going to call the police. He smirked / rolled his eyes when I said this. It was admittedly very dramatic, as he truly never makes me feel unsafe and is generally respectful of my boundaries, but I felt like I was about to pass out and was very overwhelmed. After about 5 minutes in my constant panic and yelling to let me out, he let me out. Can I please get a reality check here? I know I was in the wrong for storming off / yelling, but it also makes me feel a bit sick that he couldn't find it in him to let me out when I said I was triggered / felt unsafe, or tried to give me a hug / comfort me when I was very clearly struggling. Comment. Your BF is abusing you. He doesn't respect your need for space. He lied, aka manipulated you to gain access to you that you didn't consent to. He used his body to falsely imprison you. Legality of this depends on local jurisdiction. Then, almost worst of all, he tried to gaslight you into believing that it was your behavior that was the problem here. Your meltdown was a direct result of his behavior. Yes, it was amplified by past trauma, but that does not excuse his actions. This is absolutely disgusting behavior. Please consider leaving this relationship. Do not tell him you are leaving. Seek support among trusted friends / family. Reach out to a local DV organization for help coming up with a safety plan for your departure. While it doesn't sound like he's been overtly physically abused, this post makes me believe that he could possibly turn violent should he feel like he's losing control over you / the relationship, so it's better to be safe than sorry. I want to glom onto this comment to reframe some of this for OP. You were arguing and you were angry and needed some space, and the only place you could go where he wouldn't follow you was the bathroom. Sit with that for a minute. You had to lock yourself away from him in order to get some space and cool down. Instead of respecting that, he deliberately lit you up. He knows your history and has actually done this before. Then he mocked you for your reaction. I've posted this plenty of times, I'm sure. But one way you can tell it's abuse or manipulation is when the other party focuses on your reaction, rather than their own behavior. OMG, I had an abusive ex that used to focus on my reactive behavior and turn it around to make it sound like I was the abusive and crazy one. Total gaslighting and manipulation. The man also used sexual coercion and would make me feel like shit when I was turned off by him and was not at all in the mood. I am so glad I got out. Thank you for simplifying how to discern when it's abuse / manipulation. You should be allowed to get space during an argument if you are overwhelmed. OP needs to know there's nothing wrong with that, and the fact that her BF not only didn't let her have space to begin with, but then blocked her and mocked her is disgusting and abusive. I had an ex like this and it doesn't get better. OP, you're getting good advice here, and I'm sure it's all very overwhelming. I just want to call your attention to your last paragraph where you say he genuinely never makes me feel unsafe and is generally respectful of my boundaries. Unfortunately, this is no longer true of your relationship, because he did make you feel unsafe when he blocked your exit. So I think you need to come to terms with him not being who you thought he was. He basically believes that because he is bigger and stronger, he has the right to override what you want in any situation. This level he's at right now can be the extent of it, or it can go much deeper into a scarier place, and you essentially have no way of knowing until it does happen. Please think about yourself when making a decision about what happened. You kind of gloss over the fact that he's already grabbed you to keep you in an argument. Your boyfriend is larger than you and has shown he's happy to physically escalate to get what he wants. I couldn't move past that. It's also so hard to move past the face someone makes when they know you are weaker than the men afraid and they get off to it. That smirking face. The fact that instead of feeling guilty for scaring they enjoy it. No. Couldn't move past that, and I don't think you should either. Good people don't enjoy scaring and hurting you. Your boyfriend is a bad person, and I think if you think about the fact that he may not be a good person, you will see previous examples. Story 2. My boyfriend has completely lost all interest in my pregnancy ever since his dad died. How am I supposed to deal with this? Early this year, my boyfriend's dad was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and was told by doctors he most likely had a maximum of 2 years left. It was devastating news, especially after he had fought and beaten cancer 2 years prior, and everyone thought he was in the clear. The news affected my boyfriend a lot, though he tried not to show it as he's always been the more stoic type, but it was manifesting itself in the way he performed at work, his energy day to day, and just his general mood and demeanor. We had been together for just over a year when he found out. We had always known that we'd want kids eventually, but he told me that he didn't want them for at least another 3 to 4 years, and so obviously being so early on in our relationship we had no plans in the near future for kids. A few months after the diagnosis, I was scrolling through TikTok one night, and after seeing a video of a cute baby I made a comment about how I couldn't wait to be a mom. After hearing that, he asked me if I wanted to start trying for a baby, because he felt that he was ready to be a father. It took me by surprise and I questioned him several times to make sure he was certain, which he assured me he was. We got pregnant not long after, and he was completely over the moon. He was noticeably happier and put all of his time and energy into researching anything and everything about pregnancy and raising a child, what to buy, baby names, etc. And every time we went shopping he would insist on going to the baby sections to pick out clothes and toys. He was by my side the entire time, going to every doctor's appointment and every scan, taking time off work to make sure he didn't miss anything. He was genuinely happier than I'd ever seen him. Unfortunately, when I was around 20 weeks his dad passed away. Despite his diagnosis, it was still unexpected, as his last scan had shown promising signs. It was an incredibly difficult time for us all, and my boyfriend completely shut down. He didn't get to see his dad often since they lived in a different state, and he spent his annual work break at home with me, rather than with his family, because he didn't want to miss anything and I was too sick to travel. He was so excited for his parents to meet their first grandchild. After he passed, my boyfriend shut down completely. He barely spoke, barely ate, and barely got out of bed for the first 2 weeks. He gradually started to get better over the coming weeks after that, and was able to return to work. Despite that, anytime I mention anything about the baby or my pregnancy to him, he ignores me completely. I first realized this one day when I casually mentioned that the crib we both really liked had gone on sale. He got angry, and told me he didn't care and that it didn't matter what we bought him, and then left the room. I figured he was still probably grieving and didn't appreciate discussing trivial things like that, so I decided to only talk about it once he brought it up. I didn't realize how bad it was until recently. It's been 10 weeks since his dad passed and he hadn't brought up anything related to the pregnancy at all, and anytime I mentioned anything related to it he got mad and changed the topic. There had been some complications with our baby's growth that our doctor wanted to investigate, so I had to have another ultrasound scan at 30 weeks. I had mentioned to him the date and time of the scan several times, so I was surprised to see that he wasn't ready by the time we needed to leave. He hadn't missed a single appointment by that stage, and so I told him to hurry up or we'll be late. He snapped at me, was shouting and crying that he wanted nothing to do with it and it made no difference if he was there or not. All this time he had been calling our baby by a nickname or the name we picked out, so him referring to our boy as it was what completely shattered me, and it really solidified for me that this might not pass with time like I initially thought. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. He sees a therapist and has been going regularly ever since his dad passed. And that's done nothing to help. I'm scared that I'm going to be forced to raise this child that he so desperately wanted by myself, and I just feel completely helpless right now. Is there any way I can help him get back to who he was before? Comment. I agree with what you said, but this bit is why I'll always be grateful to my mom for her obsession with death. Not like suicidal, but always talking about how she'd die one day and visiting family graves, etc. Both my parents talked to me often about planning for when they were gone, etc. I've seen so many people lose parents, and you are right. It's like they feel some great injustice has been visited upon them, but in reality it was always going to happen. And no parent wants their kid to die first. I've seen that too, and there's something really stunning and unnatural about the death of a kid. Yet I agree. It's very sad when it's the other way around and rally any death. But it's inevitable and magical thinking to think you will never lose a parent unless you die young. I don't see why he let it ruin how he acts with his own family. Obviously you can't shut off grief, but you can stop yourself being hard and angry to others. I felt orphaned when I lost my parents. All of a sudden, you're the only adult available. It can be overwhelming to have to suddenly become a parent if you are not in a good frame of mind. It's easy to get caught up in bitterness. Other people got to keep their parents longer. They got help raising children, etc. Obviously, it's not healthy to hold onto the anger, but people are really terrible at supporting the grieving, and a little hostility is justified. I hope it will get better for OP once the baby is a reality. Many men wait until the birth to step up mentally. This might come off harsh, but it doesn't sound like he so desperately wanted this child. It seems like it served as a distraction that provided a bit of optimism or hope while his dad was dying. Now that he's died, the child probably just serves as a reminder of this all, including what he missed in his dad's final months by choosing to be with you and not missing anything in the pregnancy. I would address this head on if I were you. He has the right to grieve, and a right to his feelings, but it's unfair to you and your unborn child to continue on the path he's on. You need to talk to him. Also, you mentioned that he's been in therapy, but have you ever considered joining him in a therapy session to talk about things? I'm not so sure about the pregnancy being a distraction. I think it's more like the boyfriend made the decision to become a father out of a desire to give his dad a grandchild while he was still alive. And if his dad had made it even halfway through his prognosis, then the BF would have been successful. Now BF is feeling both the loss of his father and the loss of the dream of showing his dad he's all grown up with a family of his own. BF might need a new/additional therapist who specializes in grief. Hopefully he can work through his loss and embrace the new life he's made. I found out that I was pregnant 3 months to the day after my adopted dad died, and I can't express the joy and almost like relief that I felt after months of crippling grief. Like I was personally witnessing and experiencing the great cycle of life. OP, I sincerely hope your BF comes to feel this way about your low too.